Like most Indonesians, Rizky was first exposed to land hermit crabs, or kelemang as they're commonly known, from street peddlers selling the critters by the cent in front of his primary school. And like most Indonesians, he bought them eagerly by the bucket load. And they all sadly died by the bucket load, too. The next time he decided to keep crabs again was during his stay in Australia about 10 years ago, when he kept a group of C. variabilis and a large C. perlatus, who happened to be a big bully and knocked the smaller Oz crabs around, pinging them off the tank walls with its fat pincers. It was then he found the Crab Street Journal in its previous Yahoo Group's iteration, still managed by Vanessa, and the initial knowledge of proper crab keeping, although crab bathing was still very much the norm back then. Now, living in Jakarta, Indonesia with his family, he's been back into the hermit crab mix for the past 2 years and is one of the administrators of KLI, Kelemang Lovers Indonesia. His goal is to elevate the kelemang to exotic pet status and afford them the love and care that they deserve, not treat them as cheap throwaway children's pets. Oh, and he would really like to be the first Indonesian Mary Akers, too. He wrote that and made me say it, by the way. Other than hermit crabs, Rizky also keeps rainbow fish, a group of native Indo-Australian fishes highly threatened by habitat destruction. Please welcome Rizky.
Hello, everybody. Greetings from Jakarta, Indonesia. My name is Rizky, and I hope everybody are doing well during these interesting times. And I was very happy when Mary asked me to do this presentation, but I was also very nervous, like extremely nervous, and I still am now, recording this presentation right now. And I just want to say, I want to say to Mary and the team that I can't thank you guys enough for doing all these, all the adoptions, all the presentations, and I would like to personally apologize to them, especially to Mary and Stacy, that I turned in this presentation so late, literally 2 days before the CrabCon starts. Yeah, so sorry, Mary and Stacy. So why don't we give Mary and the team a big virtual round of applause for doing all this for us. Yay! Thank you, Mary. So without further ado, let's get talking about Substrate, and let's get to the bottom of things. Yay! So this is my habitat, circa 2019, because in 2020 it's different. And I'm going to talk a bit more on why is it different now. To give you a sense of the size, it's about 180 centimeters long, so about 6 feet. It has a topper made of plumbing, I think plastic plumbing pipes, yeah, PVC pipes, about 30 centimeters tall, covered in chicken wire and plastic, clear plastic. And the aquarium itself, the tank itself, is about 60 centimeters tall, so pretty tall, yeah. So in total, the height is about 90 centimeters, and the depth is about 60 centimeters deep from front to back. It's about just a little bit less than 1,000 liters, or around 250 gallons. And it's actually big enough for me to use it as a coffin if I'm ever inclined to do so. You know, it's a bit of a grim imagery there, but it should work to get some vivid images going there for everybody. Right, so my habitat is actually divided into two. It's actually two aquarium, and I put them together into one. You can see the seam here. Yeah, so one side is 120 centimeters and the other is 60 centimeters long. The other side is filled with 20 centimeters of 8 inches of the usual sand and cocoa peat um, mixture for the sub, and the other side is made of humus or compost, 100% organic compost, and it's at the beginning it was 9 inches, about 9 inches deep. Yeah, so this side is actually builder sand. I'll talk to you guys more about that, because in Indonesia we use builder sand, beach sand, and cocoa peat, or as you guys would say, eco earth. And the other side is Bioposca organic compost, or humus soil. Bioposca is the name of the brand. It came from a botanical garden about 1 hour outside Jakarta, and I think it consisted of 100% organic leaf litter from the botanical garden itself. And on top of the humus, I also put some leaf litter, yeah, consisted of Indian almond leaf or catappa leaf and breadfruit leaf. Oh, dried breadfruit leaf, yeah, all dried. And so the topper, I've already talked about this before. It's covered with clear plastic, so it's not 100% completely covered like most of you guys' habitats are in North America and in Europe and in Australia. I have a little bit of a gap here along this line, about half a centimeter wide, that allows some air circulation. So yeah, that's what my habitat looks like last year. Before working on this presentation, I had a look at some scientific literature that was available to me, just to see whether any of them mention about substrate or substrate ratios for keeping hermit crabs in captivity. And basically, none of them mention about it. But there were lots of mentions about uh, the crab's behavior in the wild, and the types of habitats they frequent about, and how the crabs utilize those habitats for their needs. And one of them was Hazlitt in 1966, a long time ago. He said Coenobita clypeatus, which is purple pincher, the purple pincers, yeah, they are nocturnal in its activity. They were found wandering in overgrown areas, but the majority were sleeping and buried beneath leaves and or fallen branches during the day. On Curaçao, which is drier, they were found only at night, and presumably they were hidden beneath rocks and maybe in caves during the day. But in the lab, the crabs were almost totally inactive diurnally, meaning digging into the sand and remaining completely buried during the day. So what we can see here is the crabs utilize a lot of already existing structures like leaves and fallen branches, rocks, caves, and in the lab where there are no rocks or caves, many dig into the sand. You know, they use whatever they have there and remain completely buried during the day. Another paper, this time Greenaway in 2003, much more recent than Hazlitt's, uh, mentioned almost the same thing as Hazlitt. He said behavioral means are used to avoid overheating. Great, yeah. And they see cool, humid daytime refuges under beach debris, or in litter, or under shrubs and tree roots at the top of beaches. Yeah, and I've actually seen lots of videos from members, our members in Bali. They were out looking for crabs, and They found lots of them mingling around trash piles, human trash piles, with you can see used diapers and all other filthy human waste. And Greenaway continued with saying Coenobitas scaevola and rugosus buried themselves up to 20 centimeters in the sand, 8 inches, to avoid direct insolation, and as a result, body temperature seldom exceeds 35 degrees. More inland species like Brevimanus also seek refuges. They cluster in groups under logs in rainforests or in piles of coconut debris, while Birgus latro, which is the coconut crab, favors rock crevices, hollow logs, and trees. And I can tell you now that Brevimanus also like those places, yeah. And in cold weather, they become inactive and remain buried in the sand or under debris. Well, it's clear from the two scientific papers that crabs needs lots and lots of hiding places in the wild to do whatever they want to do. Yeah, to do their various things, molting, sleeping, resting. Yeah, and in the wild where space is no issue, that means wherever they can go that are reasonably safe, cool, and they can be alone for a definite amount of time, whether it's uh, under beach debris, in litter, shrub, trash, tree roots, tree logs, rock crevices, caves, hollow logs, trees, yeah, and under the sand too. So in our group, we know that we have collectors like crab collectors from the wild. Now we have distributors also, and we have sellers also in the group. We don't and never allow advertising and selling of live animals, and in the future we want very much to have the same wonderful adoption program like the one in LH Coast. Yeah, but we have to accept that in Indonesia, at least, collecting crabs from the wild and selling them to the market is still a very important way of getting food to the table for some people. So what we're focusing in is the education to these collectors, sellers, and distributors. We want to educate them on the proper keeping of the crabs, and we want to push the mortality rate down. We want as few crabs as possible die during the catching, during the collecting, during the transit, during the holding, and during the selling to the customers. And we hope that by providing them this the knowledge to them, they will relay them to the customers, and they maybe make them a little bit more selective to whom they sell the crabs to. So one of the collectors, he operates in the on the eastern side of Indonesia, and he often posts in our group his hunting videos or collecting videos. And yeah, it's sometimes is a lot of times it's very educational because he goes to the actual habitat where the crabs live, and he can report to us what kind of things the, the crabs do, where they live, like he said here, Brevimanus hides and molts in humus soil, rotting logs and caves not far from water source. In the case of Brevimanus, fresh water is okay. So, and Perlatus, which is the strawberry, hides and molts under sand, in sea debris, and rocky crevices not far from sea or brackish water. Yeah, Perlatus needs brackish or salt water to survive. And Phyolacens, same as Perlatus, but not in rocky crevices. So what you see here is the same things uh, he said about the habitat of the crabs as the scientists did, and I have here two videos, yeah, two very interesting videos of what types of habitats or what types of places he goes to when he's looking for crabs. The first one is kind of like an Indiana Jones type of video. He is in a cave now, in a cave that opens up into a ravine, like a really deep ravine here. And as you can see, he's looking around. You can see the ravine there. Yep, there you go. The entrance to the cave. So he's moving there. He's moving towards the opening. I'm going to fast forward just a little bit. Okay, wow, that looks spectacular. Fast forward, he's moving and looking for crabs. Mostly, probably a big Brevimanus. I'm going to skip a little bit, I think, a bit more. And as you can see, yep, there's a crab down there in the rocky crevice. It's moving on, and I'm going to skip a little bit more. Yep, he's getting close to the mouth of the ravine there, and I think he's about to see. You're about to see a Brevimanus. Yep, down there under the rock there. Wonderful. Yep, just sitting there minding his own business. Right, so I'm going to skip ahead a little bit more. I think there's one more down there, I think, yeah. Okay, I'm going to skip ahead, yeah, and he's nearly at the mouth of the ravine there. Okay, and the next video is other than looking for the big ones, he also sometimes finds small ones like this one here. He was just looking around near the beach. As you can see there, there's a small, I think maybe a rugosus or maybe a baby Phyolacens. Yeah, just yeah, just exploring. So this is daytime. Yeah, so it's rare to see crabs out and about during daytime. But I'm going to skip forward a little bit here, so you can see what kind of habitat he's around in. So he's at the top of the beach near the trees here. That's the waterline there, and you can see rocks and near the beach there. And I presume uh, when night comes, this area will be crawling with crabs, big crabs like perlatus, and yeah, I think strawberries. Yeah. So with all those information I just presented to you about the habitat, about how the crabs live in the wild, what does the website and the group says about Substrate? I got this information entirely from the website. You can visit them yourself and have a look. But basically, what the our Crab Street Journal website says is the substrate needs to be at least 6 inches to 12 inches deep. It should be a mix of 5 parts play sand and 1 part eco earth. I'm going to go into that a bit later. It needs to be sandcastle consistency, and you need to use brackish water to expand the eco earth or cocoa peat bricks to reduce the chance of mold. And you need to dry the eco earth and the sand before mixing. Wet substrate will lead to potentially fatal flooding and bacterial blooms. And you need to close the tank and allow it to stabilize for 48 hours. Why then follow the guidelines laid out by Crab Street Journal? and LH costs for our substrate. Well, basically, the most ideal situation is we all want to provide the best for our crab. Well, that means having a white sandy beach with waves crashing on it, with rocky shores on the side, with some rocks and crevices for the crabs to hide in, some caves maybe, lots of trees, palm trees, rotting logs for them to hide under. And yeah, we all love to have our own tropical island paradise where we can set our crabs free and for them to do whatever they want and be happy. But of course, the problem is for most of us is space and money, and it's just not possible for most of us to cram all of that into one small tank. So the easiest, and I'd like to think having a substrate according to the Crab Street Journal's guideline is like a shortcut and the most space effective and cost effective way to give the crabs an alternative to all those yummy things that they used to have in their own habitat. Everything in the guideline is there for a reason. For example, the 6 to 12-inch deep substrate recommendation might sound like overkill, but it is truly needed for each crab to have enough space to dig around or do whatever they want, exploring, resting, or most importantly, molting, because molting is probably the most important process of a crab's life, and they need time and space alone to complete the molting process. And the 5 parts to 1 part ratio is basically to replicate beach sand composition. And I believe that for Australian Coenobita variabilis species is a little bit different, and I think Sue Brownstock will talk about that. Will talk about that later. And is why we choose coco peat is to utilize coco peat's antibacterial or fungal, and also the water retaining properties to keep up the humidity, and also to reduce overload, because we don't want everybody to become bodybuilders lugging heavy sand around. And oh yeah, and coco peat is also edible for the crabs. And the sandcastle consistency is basically to keep burrows from collapsing and burying the molting crabs alive, because they when the crabs are molting, they're basically defenseless, and when they're in the middle of molting and the burrow they're in collapses, that's basically it. They're done for. They're dead. So yeah, so to provide the best possible alternative for the crabs to do all the crabby things they want to do in a confined space and and on a budget. So you're ready to make your own substrate. Yeah, you have your tank, then you want to put the substrate in. So what do you need to do? Firstly, stretch, because you're going to lug around. um, Even in a modest 40 gallon tank, you would need around 60 to 80 kilograms of sand. So there's going to be about there's gonna be heavy lifting around. So you better be safe than sorry. Secondly, you need to expand the coco peat if you're using compressed Eco Earth by Zoomed. Yeah, you guys are so lucky in the US that you have compressed Eco Earth. In Indonesia, we don't have it, or if we do sell it, it's very expensive. We usually use loose coco peat here, bought from garden stores, yeah, and use brackish water to reduce the chance of molding. And I got a entertaining little video here from India. I think somebody's trying to see how much a cocoa pit, a 5 kilogram block of Eco Earth will expand. So I'm just gonna play it.
That we are going to test. Okay? So we insert the block into the bucket and now we pour the water.
Right, so they're gonna
So
pour the water. I'm just gonna skip. There you go. It's starting to expand. Wow. All right. So remember, this is a 5 kilogram block.
Into
So
the 9-liter buckets.
at the end,
And we are going to then put the buckets into the main bucket.
they managed to expand the 5 kilogram block of cocoa pit into 75 liters, which that means the block expanded to 15 times its own volume, which is crazy. Next, you need your sand, which needs to be dry. So when you uh, go to buy your sand, be sure that you buy dry sand. So get it from the indoor stock and not outdoors. 5 parts plus 1 part dry cocoa pit. So when you finish expanding that Eco Earth block, you need to dry it out first. Yeah, 1 part in volume. Yeah, not weight. For example, 100 liters of sand, which is 5 parts, plus 20 liters of Eco Earth. If you change that to kilograms, so 100 kilograms of sand plus 20 kilograms of Eco Earth, you will end up with way more Eco Earth than you need, because Eco Earth is very, very light. So next is the fun part, mixing. Hooray! So this is my old habitat, which was about 200 liters or 50 gallons or so. As you can see there, when I got the composition 3 parts sand to 1 part cocoa peat. It's okay to have more cocoa peat as long as it's not more than 3 to 1 ratio. And the one other thing that you can see there is I have 2 types of sand. One is beach sand on the left, and in the middle was builder sand. Builder sand is a lot cheaper in Indonesia, so we compromised and used builder sand instead. And yeah, we don't have sacks of play sand here for sale in Indonesia. And the next picture was my current habitat. Yeah, I used the sub from the old habitat and I added more sand and more cocoa peat. It was a lot of work. I think there are around 300 kilograms of sand or something, and I had to plug them up to the second floor. Yeah, so it was a lot of work. So after you mixed all your substrate, you need to cover it completely, but with all the decor inside, yeah, and including your water bowl with bubblers or with filters, yeah, or with none at all, and leave it for 24 hours, yeah, and you monitor the humidity. We're aiming for the 80 to 85% humidity for after 48 hours. And if you haven't, if the humidity haven't stabilized yet, you can mist it and wait another 24 hours. Then you look at it again. In Indonesia, it's very common to mist or water the substrate every few days because we are very stubborn and we rarely cover our tanks. Yeah, it's a constant struggle with the members there. But even in my almost completely covered habitat, I still mist and water every week because there are still evaporation. And as you can see here, let me get the highlighter, the laser pointer out. There are craters here, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 there. So they are water craters where I physically pour 100 to 200 mils of water on that spot to keep the humidity up and to keep the substrate at sand castle consistency. And if you can see here about condensation, condensation is okay. It just means that the air inside your crab habitat is humid and it's warmer than the air outside your crab habitat. So the water causes condensation on the glass. So the aim is to have sandcastle consistency on your substrate and stable 80 to 85% humidity. The way to know that you have sandcastle consistency is easy. So you just have to poke your finger onto the substrate, into the substrate at an angle, and if it leaves a stable hole, when you pull your finger out, then you have sandcastle consistency. And your crabs will be happy and will be able to make this lovely molting windows or digging windows for you. So let's talk about safe types of sand, and I'm going to add some Indo-style sands also because I come from Indonesia. Firstly, and for you guys, is play sand. You guys again are so lucky. You have stores selling this 50 pounds, I think 50 pounds bags of sand. Yeah, play sand. It's been sterilized. It's been cleaned. So you just have to open it up and use it. Yeah, it's I think the cheapest and the easiest to get. But in Indonesia, unfortunately, we don't have them. So the next alternative for us, for Indonesians, yeah, is use fine beach sand. So we don't really go to the beach and get them. We buy them from sand dealers, yeah. But it is, definitely not recommended due to contaminants. But we do sterilize them before use. The cons is they're not cheap. Yeah, they're about they're not cheap, but they are very fine, and our crabs love them. Next is the builder sand. Yeah, we have many different types of builder sand, from the light colored one to the gray colored one to really dark black colored one. But we usually choose the fine builder sand. Of course, we sieve them first, yeah, and we sterilize them under hot boiling water. And it is the cheapest and easiest for most Indonesians to source builder sand. And yeah, it does need sieving and sterilizing. Moving on to the non-safe types of sand, yeah, I'm going to add some Indo sands also. First one is calcium sand. I think it's better if we listen to Stacy. This is a YouTube video that Stacy made a couple of years ago, I think, about calcium sand, and just listen to Stacy, guys. Look at that color. Ooh. It's already started crusting. Ooh.
I started this project, or this experiment, a week ago. The idea was to put calcium sand in the bowl, mist it each day like you would if you were using it in your tank, and see how long it takes it to crust over. I didn't mist every day. I misted it almost every day, but it has been sitting for a couple days, and there's already clumps. Now they're breaking up right now, but I'm going to keep misting this just to see how long it takes them to go solid. The really scary thing is that I put this shell in and only misted it pretty good one time, and that little bit of sand is cemented in there. This is why you don't use calcium sand. I don't care what the store tells you or anybody else tells you. It will cement your crab in there as soon as it gets wet. This took one misting to do this. Don't buy this crab, please.
All right, all right, Stacy. I won't buy the crab. All right, so the next one is Pasir Malang. So this is the Indo style, a substrate which is widely available as aquascape sub, and it's cheap also. But the low point is it's very coarse. The granules are very big and it's very sharp, and because it comes from volcanic rock, it's very porous also. So it won't it 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 definitely won't hold a barrow. Next one is Pasir Bali, which is actually rounded grains of sand, or it's called Uit sand. It is also cheap and widely available as aquascape sub. And I've had members from my groups asking me, "Hey, is Pasir Malang okay? Is Pasir Bali okay?" No, both of them are not okay for substrate. Pasir Bali, it comes from moving water, so the granules get agitated all the time by the water. That's why it has become smooth and rounded, and it also definitely won't hold up a barrow. Speaking about sand, I would like to direct your attention a little bit to some problems regarding sand, meaning illegal sand mining and sand harvesting all over the world. Basically, sand is the most mined substance in the world. Yeah, sand is used for building, sand is used for making glass, for our electronics. Yeah, and it leads to a worldwide shortage of sand. And in India, there are sand mafias that use violence, and they murder people to get their sand. In North Korea, the North Korean fleet, as you can see on the right there, the picture are they are dredging sand illegally from the seafloor, and you can read all about it here. Uh, what our hobby uses an infinitesimal amount of sand compared to the building industry, but I just feel that we need to at least be aware about this. And whenever you buy those place sand, or me, I buy those builder sand. They do come from these things, and I know that in Indonesia, yeah, the problem is too close to home, because this site here, this illegal mining site, is actually only about 50 kilometers from my town. Yeah, it's in a locality called Cilegon. I pass through this area almost every week when I go to my workplace. Yeah, so they scrape these sand hills down to the bottom, and they leave nothing. And if you see here on the right, those are people's homes. So they actually scrape the hills around the people's homes, and the people and the residents there, they don't get any compensation whatsoever, and this illegal practice leads to pollution, leads to lots of flooding and lots of landslides. And you might you might ask me, why not mine from the deserts? Because we got the world's biggest desert, the Sahara Desert, and it's getting bigger and bigger every year. Because sand from the desert is functionally useless for human needs. Yeah, because they're too smooth and too rounded. Yeah, and they're useless for building needs. So yeah, just a little bit of an aside, so that we're aware that this problem is happening. So my tank, this was 2019, and today it looks like this. I basically removed all the humus soil from the right side of the tank. Why? The reason behind my decision to have black humus soil as my sub was that inland species like Brevimanus and Cavipes likes to is known to molt in soil, in forest soil. So when I opened the bag, yeah, the Bioposca bag from Bogor there, it was moist and springy, and it smelled of earth. You know, it was very nice. It retained burrows well, as you can see on the right there. So I was very optimistic. And some of my crabs, especially the Brevimanus and the Cavipes, yeah, they love the substrate. Most of them hang around the surface of the substrate almost all the time. And as you can see here in the pictures, they made me some. They dug down and they molted, and they made me some lovely molting windows. And also, there were successful, very successful molting. As you can see here, very nice sharp claws and bushy limbs, bushy hairs. This guy is rugosus who just finished molting in the humus soil. Another rugosus, I think. And violacens, look at that sharp claws, yeah. And I was so amused when I found this guy walking around the tank looking all dirty. But yeah, it was another success for the soil. But yeah, warning, fair warning to you guys, the following images might distress some people. So one of the first signs that things weren't going as well as it should was that the humus sub had compacted significantly from the original 9 inches here to around 6 inches deep, even with regular additions of leaf litter on top. As you can see here, there are some leaf litter there. And then I had naked crabs surfacing, and I started not seeing some crabs that I recognized for a while. I had this one came up, another one. This is a lila, that's a perlatus or a strawberry, and I think that's a rugosus. Yeah, so every couple of weeks I got these crabs, naked crabs surfacing from the soil, and then I knew that something was not completely right with the soil. And some more disturbing finds. I'm sorry about these pictures. You know, on the right, when I started to dig deeper, I found some shells. You know, with crabs still inside. On the left picture is a perlatus who just finished molting. You can see the exo on the right of the shell there, but it was just unable to get out of the shell and get out of the soil. And on the right is actually a Brevimanus in the middle of molting. As you can see there, there's still parts of the exoskeleton. You know, all the limbs have fallen off. Yeah, so this was when I decided to completely dig up all the sub. And one more, this is a very a kind of disturbing video of a perlatus, of a strawberry who was still alive, as you can see from the pulsing there, but it was beyond saving. So I decided to excavate all the humus side of the tank, and I started from the front of the tank gradually to the back of the tank. And as I started to dig around from the front going to the back, I started to uncover all these shells. You know, sometimes they're empty, sometimes they still have the crabs in it, you know, caked in. And it was clear to me that the crabs loved the soil. You know, they love digging in it. They love molting in it. But as time goes by, the sub actually compacted. You know, to the point that the shells become lodged into the sub, and the crabs, when they finish molting, they either had to abandon the shell because they could not dislodge it from the sub, so they had to abandon the shells, got naked, and then um, dig up to the surface without their shells, or they just had no more energy to expand and just died in there, you know. And when the excavation ended, I excavated around 20 shells. That means I lost probably 20 crabs, and I was pretty devastated because some of them were my favorite, and I had showcased some of them in the group also, and I was also feeling very guilty because some of them were rescues from other people. I adopt them, adopted them out from, uh, adopted them into my crab habitat from other people. So I basically failed them. And so what's next? The next project definitely won't involve as much humus soil. I won't use a lot of them. And I will draw inspiration from Darcy Matson's expandable foam background. And be sure to attend her talk tomorrow. It's going to be awesome. And I'm planning to make caves. I'm inspired from the crab collectors videos. Because I have lots of vertical space, lots of volume there. I'm planning to make caves. So hopefully small and big crabs can choose to mold there, you know, and I will make lots of them. So there are lots of options for the crabs. And there are more experiments from other Indonesian members, you know, including one member who's planning to use terra preta, which is an Amazon soil, kind of this rich black Amazon soil. So we'll see how that will turn out. So basically, I just would like to say to everybody, just stick to the 5 part sand to 1 part coco peat ratio. You know, make sure you got good humidity, and it's basically the best all-round sub formula. And yeah, that's it, I think, for my talk. Thank you very much, and I wish you enjoy the rest of CrabCon 2020. Thank you, guys.